Good evening, Internet, and welcome to another review on sketchbooks and architectural sketching. During the early times when I used to sketch, nobody in fact told me what kind of sketchbooks suit pen and ink the best. So in this video, I thought it would be it'd be good to collect and gather facts about choosing the right sketchbook, especially if you are into pen and ink and a little watercolor rendering, because choosing the right sketchbook is the first step towards good sketching and good journaling. So what you see in front of me is a part of the stack of my pen and ink sketchbooks, and these are all not my favorites, but I have enjoyed using some of them and I haven't enjoyed using some, and these are the facts which I wish to share with you on this video, because knowing what you need will cut short the time which you take to kind of experiment and research, and I have wasted a lot of time on this and a lot of money as well. So without wasting more time, let's get into the video to see what and which sketchbook should be used when you start with pen and ink renderings. So I will present my take on choosing the right sketchbook in 4 points. For the first point, do not use or choose very big sketchbooks, especially if you are a beginner. So in this whole set, I would never recommend you to go for something as big as this. Now, this sketchbook is bulky and it has a lot of pages. It's quite heavy. It cannot be handled easily. And this takes a very, very long time to complete. Now, that is for people who have a lot of patience, and it mostly demotivates you when you actually get to half of the book. So it's got a lot of pages and it's got a lot of area to cover. So you might have to work on a lot of details to make it look filled and complete. If you haven't seen my review of this sketchbook, I will link it down below. But I do not recommend big sketchbooks for pen and ink. But this versus some size like this will be quite handy. This is a B5 size and this is an A4 size of the same book. This is a book from Nightingale and it's called the Handy Book. I have used the A4 size completely. In fact, I'm almost finishing with my sketches, but I still feel we should never go in for a bigger sketchbook. So start with something small and complete it quickly, so that will motivate you to start with the next one. So point number 1, do not choose big ones. Go for handy, smart and small ones, which will motivate you to move on with your journey. The next set of books I'm going to be discussing is about the number of pages. Now, you might have a small book, but do not go with something which is small but has so many pages. Now, this is one sketchbook which I picked up at Singapore from a brand called Typo. So the disadvantage of the book is it's got too many pages, and as the book says, it's got 365 pages and it says draw something every day. As much as as much as I loved the book when I bought it, I haven't been doing sketches every day, and as a result, I have kind of not completed it even to this day, though it's been more than a year since I picked it up. So do not look at sketchbooks which are small but have a lot of paper, because that is never going to, you're never going to be done with. But at the same time, if you find a smaller sketchbook of the same quality of paper and with lesser number of pages and a good backing to use, I highly recommend books like these. Now, this is from Letter Note, a brand available in India in places like William Penn and and Sapna Book House. So yeah, so these are convenient because they are light, quite light. The rubber band keeps them together. You know, this has already come out and it's messy, it's heavy for me to carry. This is easy, and it's also nearing completion. It's been a month since I took the book out, and I think I'm quite happy with the way it's progressing. So point number 2, do not look at small and heavy books, but make sure you have small books with lesser number of pages so that you kind of complete sketchbooks and move on with your sketching journey. The third consideration when you kind of choose a sketchbook is to keep a note on the backing of the book. Now, I prefer sketchbooks with hard backs. Most notebooks in the market have pure white paper and they are bound well with good hard backing. This becomes very important, especially if you're sketching on site or you are standing when you sketch or when you want to spread it flat on your desk. Now that makes a good backing and makes your sketch sturdy. Now this, when compared to this, now this is also a branded sketchbook from Hermes Paris, and look at that. As much as I paid for it, I couldn't do much because the backing was so fragile, and it could have lasted me as a journal more than a sketching book. A writing journal would have really suited this well. I still landed up sketching a lot of things, but didn't quite enjoy the entirety of the book. So do be careful to choose books with hard backs which have a cardboard feel, and also make sure you have an interesting graphic on it. They really don't need to be branded. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend branded sketchbooks because they cost a lot of money. But if you're interested, you can go for a branded one, but make sure you go for a hard back cover. So that makes our point 3 for choosing sketchbooks. And the fourth point about choosing a good sketchbook is definitely to make sure you are aware of the binding of the book. Now, this was one book which I really loved and picked up because it was small, it had a few pages, and it had a hard backing. Now, all 3 criteria which I have outlined have been met in this book, but I have still not used it and I don't like it. Why? I find the binding quite frustrating. It's got a very deep binding inside, and what happens is when I kind of open the page to sketch and I leave it flat, the book automatically closes. I cannot lay it flat on a desk to do my sketching, and most of the sketching I find is also running into the binding. I cannot do a landscape full page spread sketch, so I have to restrict myself to one page or the other. So these binds should be avoided, and I would definitely look at this as a better option, the other kind of binding, which is called the wire bind. Now that makes it very comfortable to be to do sketches and to also tear them off, because there are certain artists and sketchers I know who don't want to keep sketches which don't turn too well, so they kind of tear it up and throw it off. So that doesn't affect the sketchbook. I cannot do the same thing with something like this or something like this. So this is in fact works at an advantage for it is advantageous. But what this also comes with a disadvantage, because if you are the types who's uploading a sketch or who's publishing a sketch on Twitter or Pinterest or Facebook, it gets quite difficult to scan. So the problem is when you want to scan your sketches, you are definitely left with a mark behind, and this makes it difficult for a direct upload without actually editing your sketch. So the point here is be very careful and wary about the binding of the sketchbook, because it can actually make or break a sketch, and it can demotivate you to a great extent. So that is the fourth point about choosing the good sketchbook. And with that, I will wind up this video. I hope you found it useful, and in case you have any queries or questions, do not fail to write them below. And if you've liked and enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. I will see you in the next video very soon. See you. Bye-bye.